Now it is. So we were talking, and it was like, you know, we just like it came down to like a business transaction. Do you know how to do this? How many have you done this? Okay, you've done thousands. You know, because he's like, yeah, a lot of women are sick with this, so I remove a lot of them, blah, blah, blah. Okay, awesome. You're hired. I show up on the day of. He's super short with me. He walks in. He's like ripping my, like, you know how you have to put on a gown, those ugly gowns, like it wouldn't come off, and he was in a hurry. So he's like ripping at it like that, and like being super like not gentle with me. He's not smiling. He hasn't made eye contact, and he finally rips it off, and you know, everything's just hanging out. He starts like marking on me with his marker, and he's wearing this jacket that says, hold on, what did it say? It's not a Lamborghini, a Maserati. Said a Maserati right here, and the number 99. And he was zipped up, you know what I mean? And I was like, hey, do you have a Maserati? And he sat back and he goes, I do. I was like, oh my gosh, that's my son's favorite car. He sets the pin down, gets out his phone, and he goes, really? Do you want to see some pictures? I was like, sure, I would love to see some pictures. And so he goes, scoot over. And so I'm still hanging out, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I move over. He sits down next to me. He pulls out his phone. He has his Maserati pictures in a certain folder in his phone, and he starts showing me every piece of the car that he designed. I mean, you should have seen him light up telling me about the emblem, where the emblem was, and how he even had the emblems put on the brake and the gas pedal, and the whole like these paddle things that go on the driver thing, like how they stay in place, they don't rotate with the thing, and that has a Ferrari engine, and there's actually only 251 of these cars, and he has one of them. Okay, and so we're talking, and I'm like, wow, that's awesome. I'm trying to remember all of this so that I can tell my son. He's like, how old is your son? And I was like, he's 10. He's like, oh man, I remember when I was 10. That was my favorite car too. Do you guys understand that now him and I made a connection? Do you guys think I care about Maseratis? No, I don't. But I do know that he has one of the most expensive cars you can possibly get now, you know, and he's the red interior, and I mean, it's a really nice car. He's had it since 2008. Fresh. He told me how the whole process, you guys, he had a lineup of surgeries, and he spent over a half an hour. His nurse kept coming in being like, are you okay? He's like, yeah, we're good. I'll be on in a second. And he would like shoo him away. He just wanted to talk to somebody about something that he cared about. And I showed a genuine interest in this Maserati, you know, and it all started with noticing that he had a Maserati jacket on, right? And so he showed me all these shirts, and then I saw his daughter in the picture. I'm like, is that your daughter? He's like, yeah, that's my daughter. I was like, wow, she's really pretty. He's like, you think so? I was like, yeah, she's a cute girl. He was like, yeah, she really is. And then he starts talking. Do you guys see what I'm saying? Like, he was cold the first time, and he used like the F word the first time I talked to him, the first meeting I had. He cussed all kinds of, you know, he was showing me all kinds of things. He pulled up and told me how he was #1 in the state of Texas. And the first time I met him, it was like, you know what, I'm going to overlook this because I think you're good at what you do, and I just need not be sick anymore. But this was a different man that was in this room with me talking to me about a Maserati. Because how many people do you think want nothing from him more than the money that's in his pocket? You guys see what I'm saying? And so what I was like, I text Chad, like he was like, came back and he was like, we have to go. And I was like, wait, I have to text my husband. And he thought I was texting Chad, I love you, like I'm going into surgery. But I was texting him like, I figured out how to talk to my surgeon. That's the last text I sent to Chad. Is like, I totally just won my surgeon. Chad was like, what? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I went, you know, they put me out with me praying about my surgeon. Do you know what I mean? And about that someone else, that maybe his wife or someone would take a genuine interest in him with what he really cares about. Because that is all people want, is someone to take a genuine interest, right? Like, he went on to tell me that from 2008 to 2010, like the plastic surgery like business kind of took a little dip. And I was like the housing market. He told me how it was all connected to the housing market and how all these dips. And he was like telling me like business looks like this. I was like, hey, that's what my graph looks like with business. He's like, oh, that's right. You're an entrepreneur. You know what I'm talking about? Our graphs look like this. And I was like, I know, right? He's like, but someone's got to do it. You know what I mean? So we made like this whole like connection over a Maserati, and I hate cars. Like, I think like, you know, like Chad has a Corvette because Chad likes cars, not because Summer likes cars. So what I wanted, well, I have numerous tips obviously for you now, but one is stop getting on so many webinars with your teams just because it feels good. And two, to find out what people really need and serve them in that. I never mentioned Shakeology I wasn't like, oh my gosh, have you ever thought about selling Shakeology to your plastic surgeons that it might help them heal better? You know, it wasn't anything like that. There was no intention of that. It was just, how do I connect to this guy that's about to slice me open? You know what I mean? Because I've heard stories of plastic surgeons, when they slice you open, they can be pretty brutal. Like, it's really quick, and do you know what I mean? I've heard the stories. I wanted him to be a little more gentle. You know what I mean? And if you want someone to be gentle with you, you might want to connect with them. It's all about connection, right? And you reap what you sow. And so as you're going with your spouse, with your kids, like, I hate video games. Can I get an amen to that? Does anybody else hate video games? Freaking men. But guess what? I sat down and learned Minecraft with my kids. I thought I was going to run my head through a wall after I did that, but I didn't tell them that. Do you know what I mean? I was really trying to understand it, because Scott Mann taught me that you have got to meet people where they're at, right? And so some people might not understand the value of Shakeology. That doesn't mean you write them off, right? And this guy, you know, he showed me a picture of his house and all of his Maserati and all of his cars. I know what they all look like. Do you know what I mean? But some people just want to be listened to. And so those are my two tips before I pass it over to Courtney. Is one, give your coaches a chance to fit this business into their day. And two, you need to teach your coaches to care about the people that they're talking to. The people skills are the most important piece of this entire business. I'm going to tell you this: the people that know how to connect best with people, the people that know how to listen best, the people that care most about people are going to be the people that make the most money in this business. That's my tip. Courtney, you ready, girl?
Sure. So, you know, it's funny because when somebody asked, like one of the corporate mentors, when I first started getting calls with them, you know, he asked me, he's like, you know, well, what are your strengths? Like, how did you get here? You know, like, how did you do it? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't feel like I did anything special other than just connect with people, relationships. Like, the way I got here was through relationships, and it wasn't pushing them, and it wasn't like making people do things that they didn't want to do. It was kind of just slowing down the process a little bit. And I had to learn that pretty quickly. And I have this conversation with my coaches a lot. You know, they bring on these people and they're like, oh, like, that's going to be my emerald. That's going to be, and I was like, well, wait a second. Like, you never know. Like, some of my coaches, like my dream team coaches, right? Like, on paper that I'm like, these are going to be my builders. These are going to be my elite coaches. They've pretty much all canceled. Like, they didn't do anything in this business. They didn't do anything that I, in my head, thought that they would do, because on paper, they looked like, you know, whatever on paper really looks like. In my head, I conceptualize, like, I fit them into this pocket. They're going to be a builder, right? Mm-hmm. And honestly, they weren't. Like, this wasn't a good fit for them, or maybe I pushed them too hard because I had already kind of categorized them as like builder. I mean, all those things you kind of learn and fail through, right? But it took me some time to kind of step back and think, really listen, you know, what do you want from this business? And one of the first questions I ask my coaches is, what does success look like to you? Not what does it look like to me? What does success look like to you? And I listen on my getting started right call. That's the question I have with them. Whether they're and I mean, if they sign up for the discount, I still get on the phone with them because I want for them to set up their back office, and I want to just like help them navigate through. I don't have them necessarily on the team page, but I just want to connect with them because sometimes these are people I don't really know very well, and I want to just build stronger relationships because I don't write anybody off as not being an incredibly strong building coach. But if I don't form a good relationship with them, I don't think that really is going to happen. Do you know what I mean? So I kind of pose it in a very aggressive way because I let them talk. What does success look like to you? And so some might say, well, I really would love to get the cost of my Shakeology covered. Okay, well, that gives me direction on how I can help them, right? Like, I don't just assume they want to get their product covered. They told me. I don't just assume they want to earn $300 a month. They told me. So I can sort of guide how I'm helping them based on the response they gave me to that question. And then when they're not necessarily doing those things, I have something to follow back up on. Okay, so when we spoke originally and I asked you what success looked like to you, you told me you'd like to get your product covered. So that would mean helping 3 people your first month and then trying to keep them on Shakeology. So plugging them into a group or like building that relationship. And if somebody falls off, it's finding somebody else so that your product is always covered kind of thing. And then they can tell me, I've changed my mind or whatever, but it gives me a conversation to follow back up on. But if I don't know, then I'm assuming things. And so I did that really early on because I'm a Ruby Sapphire. Like I'm competitive. I had reached out to all my former teammates and I was like, let's do this thing. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I've never even had a shake, but let's do it. And, they joined and we had fun. And then I'm like, I'm going diamond. You're going diamond too. And they're like, whoa, Courtney, like, that's just not what we want. But I think they were too afraid to tell me because I was like, when I get excited, I'm real excited. So eventually I just had to really reflect, like, okay, my goals are not their goals. Help people to their goals and you'll stumble upon yours. And that's really what I focused on. And to Summer's point about like webinars and, I was working full time and I think Lindsay had a push to diamond training or Summer did. And I didn't do any push to diamond trainings, not because I didn't think the information was valuable and not because I didn't respect the people that were running it, but I didn't have time for more stuff. Like, I trusted that if I just kept talking to people, I was going to find myself as a diamond coach. That, and as a Ruby Sapphire, training slows me down. Like, I don't want to wait till day 14 so you tell me how to do something. Like, I want to just like fail forward and figure it out. Like, I didn't want to be slowed down. I was making progress. I was starting to get going. And so I had to really think, like, what are the activities that I'm good at that I do every single day that are moving me forward? And what's going to slow me down? Training for me was not something that, and now not to say that I wouldn't have benefited from that. So I want you guys to understand that, but I knew what my day looked like and I knew what my goals were. And I just needed to stay in my strength zone. And at that point it was talking to people. Like,
let's speak to that for a second, because I don't think you would have benefited from it. I'm going to be honest. I don't think outside the basics of this, business, there's not much more to it. Now, I think sometimes some more shiny things are created to make us feel better about what we're a part of. Like, look at this training I created and it's sparkly and it like has these great flyers that go with it. And we get like our elite picture up on it. You know what I'm saying? And it's all pretty with circled pictures and it makes us feel better. Do you know what I mean? And I honestly think that's how they started to be created. But how much more can we talk about the fact that we're supposed to push play, we're supposed to read personal development, and we're supposed to talk to people? I mean, how much more can we talk about that? Courtney, I don't think you would have benefited more. And I think then we take the people that are running them and we take them out of phase 1. Courtney, have you ran a push to diamond or push to anything before?
Yes.
And it took you out of phase 1.
Yeah. And honestly, as a leader, sometimes, when you get to the leadership point, when you feel like you have this pressure to be adding value all the time and you don't know what else value to add, you start to turn inward and then you like disappear a little bit and you're like, oh crap, like I have this group going. Like, that's been me before.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the people that are craving training, I don't know that they're quite ready to run. Like they're waiting for more information to give them that's going to help them to their goals. But I think the reality of it is that you guys, our toolbox is full, like we have the tools, you have the tools that you need to be a diamond coach, and you have the tools that you need to get to 2-star, right? But you have to continuously improve upon your own tools, I shared this with my team the other day. Like I've got a thread of my coaches that are in here, and I said, you can't change them. You have to work on you. Like you can't make them want to do something. You have to change you. Like communication, and improving your social media, your avatar, your whatever it is, because you may not have the people that are ready to go to diamond yet. And you can wait for them. But I was a coach that wasn't going to wait. I remember I went diamond in December, and it was like the end of January, and I messaged my upline, and it dawned on me, and I said, wow, like I've got very little control over things in this business. Like right now, I've got my business center and my husband's business center. Those are the only two things that I can control, right? Like I can influence and I can inspire people to take action. But in terms of controlling anything, I have 2 business centers. And I want a 3rd, because that's going to give me 3 places to control, right? So I was like, my next step is to get my husband to diamond. Like it just has to happen. It clicked on me, because at that point I was sort of sitting around, like he wasn't even an emerald coach. I hadn't even gotten him to emerald. I didn't even dawn on me like, oh, duh, Courtney, like get him to emerald. Like we just didn't really understand what we were doing. We just were just making forward progress, like just kept moving. Didn't think about things. And I just like clicked, and then 3 months later he went diamond, and I was like, and he got like, my dream team at the time, because it was just, all right, every coach from this point forward goes under my husband's account.
Mm-hmm.
Like it wasn't even a question, like, where do I place them? Spouse. But I mean, that's what I just tell my team, like, don't change them, change you. Like, where can you can do more, but you can't make them do more, and you have to inspire them to want to do more. And I told them the other day too, start making you need to set goals every month. Your team needs to see you setting goals, and you need to check them off every single month. So they know, oh shit, like she sets goals and she does things. Like not just, I'm going to set all these goals and never make progress towards them. That's not inspiring anybody. Like I was really clear, like, guys, I ain't going back to this job in September. And I didn't go back to that job in September. And I think my team was like, all right. And that's when I was like, who's next? Like, now it's your turn. Like, your turn to do the goals, do the things,
Yeah. And the only thing that I think trainings do sometimes, but this is just a carrot that our society is used to. How many of you guys got your diamond back because we dangled this group in front of you? Any of you guys on here have to work to achieve to get that diamond back? I can't see how many people are raising their hand, but I do know a lot of people all of a sudden got their diamond back because it showed in my back office, right? So it was like this thing where people are like, oh, Operation Duplication, I got to get in it. Oh, they said I have to have my diamond back. Now I'm going to work in this really short, what did we give them, Courtney, like 3 weeks to get it back? And so what did we prove? That in a 3-week time that you can get your diamond back, something that some of you guys had lost diamonds 6 months ago, and you got it back in 3 weeks. So all it did really was give you a timeline. And that's what the push to, like when you go do a push to diamond group and you say you have to be emerald to get it, a whole bunch of people get their emerald. Not because there's anything great we're going to tell them. It's all it was a deadline that was set. And see, what we're struggling with, I think, as I talked today about being your own CEO, is you have to set your own timelines. Like Courtney said, your own goals every 30 days. No one should be tracking your goals for you. Your husband shouldn't have to say, hey, babe, did you work out today? No one should have to say anything to you. No one should have to say anything to you. Trust me, no, Chad CEO did not call him at work to make sure that he was at his flight that was going to fly a mission over to protect some people over in Afghanistan. No one was like, hey, Captain Tucker, why aren't you out of your bunk? That would never happen. You know what I mean? And so we have to set our own deadlines and take them serious. That was a good tip, Courtney. Did you have anything else? No. That was good. Okay. Rebecca, where you at, girlfriend?
I'm right here.
You got a tip? I'm just going to go through and ask everybody to share a tip.
Sure, I do actually. Just the other day, someone asked in our team page about, I know we get a lot of questions sometimes with people with medical issues, and we always have to say, you have to talk to your doctor, and that bottom line is the truth. And she said, well, she has this condition. Yeah, I know we have to talk to her. She has to talk to her doctor, but what can I tell her? And my response is always to go back with questions. So, anytime, you can never ask too many questions. And when people come to you, whether it's about the coaching opportunity or it's about the challenge group, we have to be willing to just ask so many questions. And that was really to Summer's point when she was talking to her doctor. It's just finding out like what their issues are or what they enjoy. And once you find that trigger point and they start responding back to you, that's when it's going to click for you, because there's no way. That's why you have to come in the group and ask, because you don't have enough information. If you don't have enough information, we sure as heck don't have enough information in the group. So, really just sitting down and thinking about, who this person is and what you know about them. A lot of times they're leads. I had a lead come to me just recently, a brand new person I'd never met or talked to. And, she has a history of some eating disorders. And so before I say anything about Shakeology or a fitness program for her, I want to know, I asked her how long ago it had been since she had had this issue. Is this something 10 years ago, or is she kind of still on the fence too, having issues with eating disorders? So the more we know about people, the more you learn how to ask good questions. John Maxwell has a book called Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. Mm-hmm. So that's really so key and foundational to not only, talking to your coaches as they sign on, potential coaches, but, the customers that eventually, if you treat them right and talk to them, and this is what's setting the foundation for them to be your future great coaches on your team, is you're walking them through that same process by showing how to duplicate, right?
Yeah, totally. And I've heard some people recently in different settings say like, well, I'm just sick of hearing about people's problems. Well, then it's not the right business for you.
No.
It's not the right. We all have problems and we're all human. And that's what we're here. We're here to serve people as they figure out how to navigate their struggle in fitness or their struggle with emotional eating. We're here to support them in that. And if you're sick of hearing about it, if you're sick of hearing about your coach's struggles, then that's a heart condition. You know what I mean? What's that, Rebecca?
No, I was agreeing.
Yeah. So, that's what we do. We ask questions and we listen, like Rebecca said, and that's a great book. Has anybody read that book by John Maxwell? All of his books are really good, in my opinion. Especially, he's my favorite, and I said this last time, for leadership. He's my favorite mentor for leadership purposes. Anything else, Rebecca?
No, that was my one quick tip.
That was good. That was really good. Carrie, are you on here? I don't know.
Yeah, I am. I just had to find the unmute button.
Okay.
I'm just basically echoing what everyone's saying here. You started the call with saying this is such an easy business, and I really couldn't agree more. And I think the pressure of trying to add value and give you guys the secret really lies within your communication skills. And the way that you work on yourself to be a better communicator is to become a better listener. I had a pretty good aha moment at like maybe 2 years in, where I was like, I don't need any scripts. I don't want my team using any scripts. I want you guys listening to understand people, because nobody is going to fall into these scripts in the exact same way. And they're not going to feel understood, like your story with your doctor, and they're not going to feel heard. And so as I'm reading through our book, Get Over Your Damn Self, and, picking out things that I like and I can use and relate to my team, there's some that I'm not fond of, and I've never been one to really lead with the business. Some of you might do that successfully, so I'm not going to say that's wrong. But things like the reach out rules, like on page 71, those were great. There were a couple that I was like, but there's 14 rules on that page that really remind you to be a good person and be a good friend. And, you're not on the hunt. And like, I'll hear people say, I get people very easily into my groups. And I'm just like, even that phrase, like getting people, or, like even saying closing and stuff like that. Like that's how Beachbody is so different from these other, MLMs that are just out there selling. We're listening to people to figure out their needs and figure out how we can fulfill them. And there was another part that in this book that I think helps you become a better listener. And that's the pain, no pain. Like you're literally putting yourself in that person's shoes when you're going to talk to them. And whether you're, looking through your previous conversations or you're looking through their social media, because people are on social media to be social, use their information to help them. You can create this pain, no pain list. I don't remember what chapter that was in, but she had a few examples and they're really simple to follow. You just literally think about that person that you're talking to for a couple minutes before you either get on the phone with them or before you message them. And you're building a relationship. You're thinking about them and their needs as you're going into it. And it's just such a better feeling of the 5-step script process or whatever that thing was called when I first started coaching. I tried to memorize that thing and say it into a mirror so it sounded like me, and it just wasn't working because it wasn't me. And the last little part of that, I don't leave any conversation where I've built a strong relationship thinking that person is forever a no. One of Megan's coaches, Breen, told me this, I think in maybe my first or second year of coaching. She's like, use them as a prediction list. And I thought that was a great way to put it, that they were a prediction for the future. Like, we have a good relationship. They're either going to send people my way, they're either going to, reach out when they need help with their nutrition, or I'm going to be able to chat back with them, and it's not going to be weird or awkward because we've established a relationship. And so that was something that really helped me to keep going and keep that funnel staying full, was having that simple 10 to 20 people on a prediction list that I needed to keep being, building that stronger relationship with. So those were kind of the things that had really helped me get to where I was. And like Courtney said, training wasn't so much the key factor to me getting to where I was, because there wasn't any. There was like an 8-hour slideshow. And then when we did have the training, I was part of the crew that was making it, and it was not good. But it did get me out of my comfort zone, and so I think there is some value to it, but I don't want to say but my point is that this group of people, everyone here on the call, you guys are beyond training and looking for nuggets. You're into how can you make yourself a better leader? Like Courtney was saying, how can you do better? How can you step up to the plate? How can you, check off your goals each month and lead your team by being a leader of example? And I think that's what a lot of people are getting out of this. And I'm excited for them to see, when creating themselves again, and what that looks like, and how that can inspire your team to go full throttle again. And so, yeah, those are my nuggets for tonight.
Yeah. I think sometimes people get frustrated, and some people might not want to admit it, but they don't really have a long-term vision. Like, they say they do, they say it like when they're in front of us, but really in their head, they're like, if this doesn't work out in a year, or if this doesn't make this amount of money, I haven't made it yet. Or if it doesn't hit this amount, like, oh, I got to make this amount of money by this date or some, there's this, almost like, that's when it starts to make the business icky. Whereas for me, I wasn't going anywhere. Does that make sense? So for me, like, I didn't mind having this longer drawn out conversation with someone that was really like, you know, how long have you been dealing with that eating disorder? What else have you tried? Like, you know, do you have anybody that's part of your support system? I didn't mind that a conversation like that went on for 6 months because I knew I wasn't going anywhere. You know what I mean? And I didn't mind when someone told me no, because, you know, and didn't come back for 5 years, because I knew I would still be here in 5 years. That might be a question you want to ask yourself. Like, would you really be here in 5 years? I don't think so many of you guys would push and get so frustrated if you really believe, like, you know what? I'm a part of this mission and I'm a part of this team, you know, and I like what we do, and I like helping people, and I like, you know, having a purpose-driven business, and I like learning how I can be a better me so that I can serve more people. You know, sometimes I think we're trying to go for the quick sell because we're trying to prove to everybody that, damn it, this multi-level marketing business, it's the real deal, and you're all going to believe it, and I'm going to prove it. Does that make sense? Anybody just get a gut punch just now? I don't know. You know, and so I think when we take that expectation off and we realize that what we do is just about people. It's just about talking, like we have the scripts in case our emeralds get, like, let's just be honest, there are some personalities that aren't so at their people skills. They do need a little practice. Okay. So, but if you really just sat down like across from someone and you just said to them, tell me how I can help you with in any form of fashion. What's going on in your life right now? And you just had a normal conversation back and forth. And you said, you know what? There's this video that my friend Carrie did on, I don't know, or Megan did on such and such. I'm going to send it to you. And Megan talks about how she overcame some of her eating disorders. Maybe that would help you. There's no money being exchanged, nothing happening, but a whole bunch of love and a whole bunch of let me serve you. You know what I mean? And you reap what you sow, so you know you're going to develop a lifer. But sometimes I wonder how many of you guys have put a restriction on your business. Like, I'm going to give it 1 more year. Or if I'm not making a certain amount of money by X amount of date, I'm out. Guess what? Your team, your challengers, and everyone around you can feel it, but you can't fake a heart condition. And that's actually scientific. Did you guys know that? I'm reading a book on it right now. So it's true. Everything that's written in a book is true, right? Just kidding. Okay. Let's see. Who else? Kimberly, what about you, girl? You got any tip you want to share real quick?
I loved everything y'all just said. I was just reading Maxwell notes today, actually, from 2 years ago. And it was a major gut punch to me because we were listening to him on our year-round calls 2 years ago, and there was some things he had written down, and he's like, if you want to do something new, and if you need to do new and different things in your business to get new and different results, what are they? We don't have to go into my 3 things right now, but I wrote down 3 things, and there's still 2 out of the 3 things that I'm not doing. And so I challenge all of us to write down 3 things. Like, what are 3 things we need to be doing different in our business to see changes? Because when I read that, like, one of my things is working out in the morning. First thing, no excuses. I still don't do that 2 years later. I still whine about it. I still complain about it. I still find excuses for it. And it's something that holds me back. Like, anyone that knows me on this call absolutely knows that's true. 2 freaking years I wrote this down. Like, it's unbelievable. Just do it. But he goes on in a lot of this call that I reviewed, and one of them I put in the post just a minute ago, but he was on the same topic, and it was like, instead of asking yourself, how long will it take me to be successful at this? Don't ask that. Stop asking that, and just ask yourself, how far are you willing to go? And that's how I approach the business. So I know that I'll be here in 5 years because I know I'm willing to go all in. I know I'm willing to give it all that I got. And I know that I'm willing to keep writing down workout in the AM in addition to the other things that I need to do until I get there. For some of us, it will just take longer. For you, it might be invites. For you, it might be, going live. For you, it might be your social media. it's all different for all of us, but we all have our thing that we have to change, and you have to constantly self-evaluate those things. Another one that I really stuck out with me was everyone will, and this is funny because I'm looking at Carrie on my screen, and I think this came up in Palm Springs, but he said everyone will not take the journey with me, and that's okay. Not everyone's going to do this with us. Some people are going to choose to say no, and not, whether they don't want to be a challenger with us or they don't want to be a coach with us. And you have to ask yourself, if my friends quit climbing, should I quit climbing? And it goes back to, if your friends jump off a bridge, should you jump off a bridge? Just because they make a decision doesn't mean you need to too. And John Maxwell talks about this a lot, like that he's on a wall, like I'm on a wall, I'm building a wall, I'm doing something very important. I can't come down for every little thing for people to hold me back. So you have to reach out to your coaches and go back, like Courtney said, and say, well, you told me XYZ. You told me that you wanted to do this. Is that still the case? Like, is this still what we're shooting for? And if not, you can say, he says, I love you so much. I don't want you to stay here. I want to help you keep growing, but you got to do the work. I can't do it for you. And, I've said that to so many challengers over the year. Like, I love you so much to stay in this spot. I'm going to keep trying to help you, but what can I do for you? What value can I add? But I think a lot of this group, with the goal getting to 2-star and being a very new 2-star, is to constantly think about that. Like, the people that get you to emerald don't necessarily get you to diamond, and the people that get you to diamond don't necessarily get you to 2-star. And that's been exactly the case in mine, other than I could control my husband, and I knew I needed 8 coaches and 2 emeralds to get to diamond. And then I knew I should build my husband, and I was lucky enough to find, a couple people building along the way, but they weren't the people that got me to diamond. They weren't the people that got me to emerald, because I was always keep inviting. I feel like sometimes a lot of people that you just hit diamond and you're like, okay, someone in this downline of my 8 people is going to make me 2-star. And that's not the case. Like, you got to get that to 16 coaches. You got to keep adding to it constantly. You can't stop. Because then I even see people get to 1-star and they're not even 1-star because they don't have enough coaches on each side, or 2-star. Like, they don't, they forgot about keep building themselves.
Yep. You know what a lot of this makes me think about is this book that I'm reading, since, that's really all I have time to do. So there's this book called The Happiness Advantage. Are you guys surprised that I'm reading about happiness? That's really all I care about. But it's talking in here about how 4 out of 5 Harvard students are clinically depressed. 4 out of 5. Okay. And it was talking about how, because all their focus the whole time was to get to Harvard. Okay. Like, that was like, okay, get the best grades. Like, and so there was all this stress, like, okay. And once I get to Harvard, then I'll be happy. But then they got to Harvard, and then they realized that at Harvard, everybody was just as smart as they were. And their smart, their grades defined them. And so now they had to work extra hard to try to be the best at Harvard. Okay, and so now they say you could go into the libraries at Harvard at 3 a.m. and it's packed. Like, people are studying it, trying to be the best, trying to graduate, be the best, because that's what has defined them. And that's where all this depression comes from, is from this title, this chasing of trying to one up. Okay, because what happens once you hit, let's just say $2,000 in your business? Did you arrive? Now what? Or let's say 2-star. Is it then, because let me tell you, I got caught in this trap one time. I was like, once I just make it to 5-star and get on that wall and get to talk to the diamond line, I'll be good to go. I'll just kind of just be good. And then I was like, it'd be kind of be cool. Did you see the 10-star bonus? Maybe I should get the 10-star. Once I get to 10-star, then I'm going to be cool, and then I'm not going to worry about it anymore. And then I got to 10-star, and Chad said, well, when are you going to get to 15-star? I'm like, I'm not really worried about it. And he took all the names of all of my coaches and taped them on every single light in my house, like switch, all of my personally sponsored coaches' names that wanted to hit diamond, he put on every single light switch. So every time I turned on a light, I had to stare at the names of the people. Isn't that mean? It was like living in Harvard in my own house or something. Do you know what I mean? It was mean. It was something we went through. And so, and it was not the happiest time of my life. It was not when I hit 15 star, right? And so when I was reading this, I was thinking about how you have to know, this comes back to what Courtney said, you have to know how you define success. You get to define it. And nobody can define it for you, and no one should have to push you towards it. There should be no push group, push this group, shove that group, I don't even know, dangle this carrot, win this money. You should know what you want and genuinely in your heart desire to work towards it, not because it defines you, but because you have a vision that you're passionate about. And this brings me to this. Did you know, that optimistic salespeople outsell their pessimistic counterparts by 56%? Optimistic. People that are optimistic end up more successful. See, most people go the other way around. They say, once I'm successful, once I hit that title, once I have this many sales, once I hit, if only I hit Success Club Legend or this, then I'll be happy. But did you know it's actually the other way around? The people that are happy right now, the people right now that can wake up when their feet hit the floor and be like, dude, I'm alive. Those are the people that are going to hit 2-star and beyond, that are going to have a legacy and that are going to have influence. It's the people's feet that hit the ground and grumble and they're unhappy and they're like, if only, like, once we're making 6 figures, once I'm driving this kind of car, once I'm doing that, then I'll be happy. And it's all wrong because they've actually done studies on it. It's right here in this book. And I also read this book. This one's called Before Happiness. I read every book that has that word in it because I think it's totally misunderstood in this country. And so right here it says, and this is the last thing before I want to bounce it over to, I saw somebody else on here. The greatest predictor of success and happiness is their social support network. And that sums it all up. Is who you decide to surround yourself by every single day. And that is a choice. Trust me, that's a choice. And I made that decision 7 years ago about who I was going to be surrounded by. And I had to put barriers up around my family for a season. They live with me now. Isn't that kind of cool? But for a season, I had to do that. Because if you're around someone that's pessimistic, if someone's telling you that you're pessimistic, guess what? All of us optimistic people are going to sell to your people that you're trying to sell to because we're optimistic and you're not. And that's a decision. And Chad and I had that discussion today because you know what Chad was voted in high school? Most pessimistic. Chad was voted most pessimistic, right? He's not the most optimistic person. He has to work very, very hard to be a happy person during the day. And I have to remind him all the time, you like money? You better start smiling. That's our little thing between him and I because he's a Ruby. You like money? You better start smiling because ain't no one going to want to give your frowny face anything. And it's true. So if you frown a lot, if you're pessimistic, if someone tells you you're hard to be around, if someone is always like, are you okay? Like, is something wrong with you today? If you hear people saying that to you a lot, that is a trigger that you're not. All us optimistic people are going to steal all of your sales, if I'm putting it bluntly. That was supposed to be funny. All my pessimistic people can smile now. You guys. Okay, where are my other people on here? Lisa, you got a tip?
This is all just so good, and it made me think about 2 different things that I heard this week that goes along with everything that you guys were just saying. For one, I just listened to Amy Porterfield had Marie Folio on her podcast, and they were talking about questions kind of tied kind of tied in with John C. Maxwell's book, but they were talking about the questions that you ask and not only the questions that you ask to your clients and things like that, but the ones that you're kind of playing over and over again in your own head. So a lot of us, we might have this negative thing going in. It's kind of like when Summer was talking about, you're saying that you're all in, but in your mind, you're like, dude, if I don't hit this rank or this amount of money, I'm out. That actually has such a negative impact. So, I would suggest, for one, to listen to that podcast, Marie Folio and what was it, Amy Porterfield. Sorry, it's getting late and it's like week 2 of the Ultimate Reset, so my mind is like dead by this time. But think about the things that you're thinking about. And another way to put it, Darren Hardy this week, it was another thing I talked to my team about, and it was the way that he put it was, stop thinking about what you think you need to be doing and instead focus on who you need to be. And when we start focusing on who we need to be, one of the things that he had mentioned, if you want to be the top earner in your company, how does the top earner carry themselves? How do they act? How do they talk? How do they speak? How do they show up to work every day? What are they using their time on? Are they wasting their time? How are they dressing? All of these other things, to put yourself in those shoes. And I think so many times we're so worried about, I believe it was Kimberly who mentioned like that dream team, coming in, and now I've got my 8 and they should go and all of this other stuff. And then our boat gets all rocked when they're not even the ones who are going to do anything with it, or they quit, or they fall off, or all these other things, when really we haven't dealt with our own mindset, our own, whether it's just emotions, insecurity, frustrations, whatever it is that, sometimes we have to dig up through personal development and just growth and learning in this business. I think it's so important that we do, though, because we are at the end of the day, we're dealing with people. And when we stop just thinking about what our goals are and we stop listening to that negative mindset, we decide to change it and we start actually saying, okay, what does my ideal coach, the ones that I do want to build this life with, this legacy with, what do they need to hear? What can I say to them? What do they need? What are they lacking? How can I serve them? Through my social media, through everything else. That's another thing that I've listened to that challenged me this week. Stop thinking about what your social media needs to look like or what you're lacking, and start asking yourself, what are the people who are your true followers, or whatever you want to call them, what do they need? What are they lacking? What are they struggling with? How can you provide that solution or that answer? How is something that you've gone through something that they can benefit from? And in the end of the day, I think we just forget, man, every single one of us are human beings. Every single day, every single one of us are facing some sort of problem, situation, struggle, issue, health issue, whatever it is. And sometimes people just need you to come alongside of them and say, dude, I hear you. Like, I see you, and I want to come alongside you. And I think one of the things that we often forget, we get into trainings and everything else, but just the simplicity of like, this community is here to see that you did your workout every day, to cheer you on because you showed up and pressed play, that you blended your shake. Like, for so many people, that's freaking huge. That's huge for them, that they just showed up and did a workout, or that they pressed play, or whatever else the case may be. Yeah, we're going to want them to grow and go, a little bit more, especially if they're a coach. But that's the basic thing. That's the basic thing that in the end, we're trying to help people get healthy and fit.
That's
if
it.
If they want to build a business, awesome. Let them be passionate enough because they experience such an amazing thing in that community, whether it's from a coach or a challenger, that they don't have to have every training in the book. They're just so passionate about it inside because it radically changed their life that now they're going to go talk about it, whether you train them right or not. I mean, yes, we need training and everything, but I mean, I don't know, as I'm listening.
But do we really?
I don't know. I'm questioning now.
I really do question it. I love everything you just said, Lisa, because drink your shake. You worked out, you became passionate about it. And what it reminds me of is the first thing that stuck out to me that Danny taught me was just not getting into all the facts of everything, but just, I don't know. All I know is I joined this group and they really supported me and they loved me through the whole process, and I ended up losing 20 pounds. And so I loved it so much. I joined. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you don't need a lot of training. Like that is genuinely something that would come from my heart. Like, I don't know. All I know is when I surrounded myself by this group of 100 people, when Chad was deployed, when he came home from deployment for the first time in my life, I felt good in my skin. And I remember thinking, everyone deserves to feel like this. And there's no script for that. There's nothing other than, I don't know. All I know is, and you tell your feeling. Mm-hmm. That's it. You know what I mean? And that is all you tell people over and over and over again is your story. You know what I mean? And, and so I love what you just said. I'm pretty damn convinced we don't need any training. But I want to, you said something at the beginning, and then I want to hear Kristen Sharp talk, because I think it's pretty awesome that she's on here with a week-old baby. But right here in my book, you said something at the beginning, Lisa, and then my book says this: what we spend our time and mental energy focusing on can indeed become our reality. So whether you think you have a good marriage or you think you have a bad marriage, you're right. Whether you think you're a good leader or you think you're a bad leader, you're right. Whether you think you're good at talking to people or you think you're not good at talking to people, you're right. Because whatever you give your mental energy to, that's going to become your reality, because it is going to control your actions. And it's exactly what Lisa just said. It is just so simple. So, Kristen, are you on here real quick?
Yeah, I'm here. Leave the tired mama at the end.
I know, I'm sorry. Wake it up. You have no excuses.
No, I was thinking, as you guys were talking about happiness and, being comfortable with where you're at, like making sure what success means to you. Because I've got a lot of Ruby in me. And so
no.
I have to be very careful to not let that affect my mood and my emotions. Because it can get to me, where I'm like in a bad mood towards my husband, you know what I mean? Because I'm stressed about where I want to be. But, and then I'm like, well, why the heck am I stressed over that? Like, that's so stupid. Look at how far I've come. And I just have to remind myself, like, what all we've been blessed with, and it is a total choice thing you have to make. Choosing to be happy. I just lost where the page is. There it is. Choosing to be content, with where you are. But I know you want to keep growing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a focus thing. It's a mindset thing, and a heart thing for sure. So, but,
I think that goes both ways too. Don't you think, Kristen, think about like where like Kristen, myself, Courtney, Rebecca, Carrie, some of us have gotten. And if we were just like to sit back and go, we've arrived, you know what I mean? Our happiness levels would go down because of where true happiness comes from. And that's why I've studied it so much, because happiness doesn't even come from money or nice cars or planes or country clubs or vacations or any of those kind of things. If you guys watch the documentary Happy, it talks a lot about how being a part of something bigger than yourself and adding value to people on a daily basis, it's where where happiness can come from, right? And so if Rebecca, myself, and Carrie, we were to be like, all right, you guys figure out and sit back, even though our bank account keeps growing, our happiness levels would go down, right? So it's not like this idea of I've arrived. Like, we should never, retirement was actually like invented by, like, I want to say, like, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say it was like the Chinese or something like that, because they needed to make more room for the new people, the younger people. There was no jobs for people to come into, so they were forcing people into retirement. And then it got marketed as this big thing, like to work towards retirement. Study it. It's crazy. Okay. And so, but really when people retire, when they actually retire and do nothing, when they've done studies on these people, their happiness levels go down. So the goal isn't to never do anything again. The goal is to continually add value to other people, to make a difference. And that's what we have the opportunity to do. But for some reason, so many of us are basing it on whether some people accept what we do as important or whether we've hit a certain rank yet. There's something that I can guarantee you, though. If you keep adding value to people and you keep reaching out and you keep growing, and you take the tips that Carrie gave you and Courtney, that you will hit those titles. There won't be any extra happiness that's achieved at that title. You will get a huge shout out and you might get a gift or something like that, and you'll get to walk across the stage and we'll all take your picture and we won't miss it and we will celebrate you for sure, because we value you, but that won't define you. And that's not where your happiness will have started, and it won't be where it ends. Does that make it's something that you continuously, happiness is something that you continuously do starting right now.
And the rank and the walking across stage is all very quick and fleeting. It's like, okay, well, that wasn't all that great. But in the end, making sure your focus is on, I get to do this, not like I have to do this. And I always have to remind myself of that whenever I start feeling overwhelmed, or I change my mindset to, I get to get up in the morning and talk to people and make a difference in other people's lives. I get to work with an incredible team of coaches that encourage me every day. They're my best friends. And I honestly can't imagine life without them now. So when we bring our focus back to what we love about what we do, then it makes everything else just fall into place.
Absolutely. There's people's lives. I'm going to leave you guys with this. I'm going to get you guys off here. There's people's lives that you guys have touched that you have forgot about in the name of some rank. You have forgot about it. There's someone's life, someone that you have helped escape depression. There are some of you guys that have helped by sewing into people. You have helped marriages be repaired. There are some people that you have helped connect better with their kids. There are some people that wake up happier every single day. Like, you have changed their whole entire family's life just because you showed up in their life. And some of y'all have forgotten that. That's powerful. And that's something that you can't put a price tag on and you can't put a rank on. But if you do that enough times, one day you're going to look behind your name and you're going to see the rank behind it. If you do that enough times and you stay focused on those moments, there's going to all of a sudden be some stars next to your name and a couple titles. But they're not going to mean as much as the names of the people that you get to hug at those events and that you get to talk to every single day. And that's what it's about. So you guys, I'm going to let you guys go. Kristen Sharp looking a little rough like I am. So I think we should go to bed, Kristen. I will talk to you guys later. See ya.